Let's start studying stencil objects and what they're used for. Next, we'll see how to apply stencils to our knowledge base. At development time, usually there are elements repeated in several places. For example, in the event app we're developing, we've seen that a speakers list appears in several places. In the screen on the left, we see the list of the speakers work with for smart devices component. And to the right, we have the same list that's shown in the speakers section of the detail of the countries work with for smart devices component. Also, we frequently want to show the same information using the same design. In these cases, we run the risk that they don't look the same or that they don't have the same design. Also, every time we require changes in the way this information is presented, we must modify all those places where the design is included. One of the tasks that designers and developers must do together is to identify these patterns in the application. We'll call this UI control composition. Once we've identified them, we're going to establish a unique design so that this composition is displayed everywhere in the same way. The new stencil object will allow us to create these UI control compositions, defining their design without thinking about the code. These components will be reusable in different objects, and in this way, we'll maintain application consistency less effortlessly. When we want to modify the design, we'll do it from the stencil, and the changes will be replicated on all the objects that use it. Because it's an independent object, it'll provide all the advantages of these objects. For example, it can be exported to be shared, we can maintain the history of changes that it's undergoing, and we'll be able to use a cross-reference to know where the stencil is used. When we change it, we will know the impact this change will have. The stencil object will be the place where the developer's work will converge with that of the designers in the same object. Let's take a look at all of this in GeneXus. First, let's review the list of speakers. As we've already seen in the presentation, and also in the countries, let's see the speakers of a country, and note that they're different designs. So we open GeneXus. First, we'll open Work With Devices Speakers, and we'll look at the list. Here's a table that we will turn into a stencil. We'll right-click and use the option Wrap as New Stencil. As a result, the table will be turned into a stencil, and we'll call it Speaker Info, and click on Create. The first thing we're going to see here is that the attributes we had in the grid are now variables. But on the other hand, we don't have all the properties available in the stencil. We only have those that have to do with design and not with behavior. The classes are taken into account, as well as the sizes of the tables we had defined, and so on. Note that we only have the layout and variables. We don't have events because the stencils don't implement any logic. We'll save the stencil. Note that now in Work With Devices Speaker, in the list, the table has become a stencil, Speaker Info. Also note that in Attribute Properties, we have fewer properties to configure. This is because all the properties related to design are on the stencil side, and here, we only have properties related to behavior. The attributes are left as they were originally. For example, we wouldn't be able to move an attribute to another place because everything highlighted in gray within the table or the Speaker Info stencil is read-only. We'll save this object as well. Now we will apply the stencil to Work With Devices Country. Inside the Speaker section. Note that here we don't have a table, but directly the attributes inside the grid. We'll create a table to turn it into a stencil. we'll take the attributes inside the table and have the option to turn the table into a stencil. We'll use the option Search for Compatible Stencils. This will open the Stencils tab. Here, we only have one for now, but if we had many, we'd be able to search them by name. So here we have three options: Open, Insert, and Swap. Let's look at each one of them. The Open option will open the stencil directly. The Insert option will insert the contents of the stencil in the place where we're positioned in the layout. Let's give this a try. I'll make the insert at the end. Note that the entire stencil table is added with the variables where we were positioned. Let's delete. And the swap option is the one we're most interested in right now. It'll have some intelligent features, and we'll try to search for each variable in the layout a match by data type in the layout of the panel where the stencil is applied. In this case, the variable and speaker image of the stencil will find a match with the speaker image attribute. So, it'll leave the attribute instead of using the variable. Of course, it'll apply the style set for the stencil. For a speaker full name, it'll look for an attribute or variable of char type. Find speaker name, use it, and leave speaker name. It will not turn it into speaker full name. For speaker ID, it doesn't find a numeric attribute or variable in the layout. And the same will happen with company name. We don't have another attribute because it's already been mapped, speaker name. We don't have a second attribute of char type, so it'll add company name to the layout. Let's see it. We click on Swap and, as expected, we find speaker image attribute and speaker name attribute instead of speaker full name, and speaker ID as a variable, and company name as a variable. We may leave the variables and load them in the load event. In this case, we're not interested, so we change it so as not to use variables and use the attribute directly. Let's save it. So here we forgot to change speaker name for speaker full name. So now we save again and run the application. Let's check to see what the system looks like. We see the list of speakers with the design it previously had, only that now it uses and makes reference to the stencil. For example, let's see the one we'd already seen, Uruguay, in speakers, and we see that now it has exactly the same designs in both lists. So let's go over what we've done. First, we turned a table into a stencil. We did this to simplify things, but we could have created it from scratch like any other GeneXus object. We also saw that we can only modify the design inside the stencil. In the objects that implement it, the controls are read-only. We saw the panel where the KB stencils are displayed, and here we only saw the swap option. The insert option will not look for the variable mapping in attributes. The stencil where we're positioned will be inserted directly, but it will not replace any content. It'll add it, and the open option will simply allow opening the stencil. You can read more about the use of stencils in the GeneXus wiki. In the next video, we'll begin to study in more detail the use of different controls to improve UI and UX design in our system.